Over 1 million pigeons are recorded being released in Portugal.
From this bald eagle taking its first flight, to these circus lions that just tasted sweet freedom, animal rescues leave an imprint on our hearts in more ways than we can imagine. What happens when animals that have been stuck in cages all their lives get rescued by humans? Watch these animals being freed for the first time. Bald eagle released into the wild. This majestic bird was initially captured by the Houston Wildlife Center of Texas for treatments, but after weeks, it's now being released into the wild, where it will dominate the food chain once again. Young elephant gets new big family. This baby elephant couldn't survive on his own, so the wildlife workers in Kenya helped him find a new family of orphaned elephants like him. Look how happy and free he looks now. Orphaned rhinos begin a new life. In May 2014, Gergie and Matimba's mothers were slaughtered right before their eyes, so they had to be taken care of by wildlife workers. After 5 years of rehabilitation, the matured rhinos are now free to live in a safe and secure environment. Here she goes. After spending a whole year at the Alaska Raptor Center, these two bald eagles are now ready to go back into the wild. Watch as Q and Sybil take flight one more time, enjoying that sweet, sweet freedom. Carpet python returns home from the hospital. This carpet python needed the help of the humans after eating something it shouldn't have. Watch as it slides away after being reintroduced back into its habitat following a successful treatment. Alligator released back into the wild. Watch as this wildlife worker encourages this alligator to get back into the swamp after it was released. Koala returned into the wild. This koala needed a little help getting back on its feet, but now that he's okay, workers bring him back to the place he was rescued so he can continue living a normal life. Condor takes first flight as a free bird. For many years, this majestic condor was locked away in a zoo, but now it's time to embrace the winds and be free. Check out that beautiful display as she spreads her wings, takes a respectful bow to the people, and stares deep into the distance. The condor then takes flight and slides graciously through the skies. Elephants finally get off their chains in years. You can see the joy in their faces as they finally taste freedom after years in chains. Now these marvelous animals can roam freely in the jungle. Tigers leave cage for the first time in 15 years. These two tigers were forced to live in an abandoned train car for 15 years. Watch as they hug each other when they finally realize they're free. Tarzan and Tanya find a new home. These two lions have spent their entire lives living in a tiny circus cage, but thanks to rescuers, these majestic beasts finally taste freedom for the first time. 3 brown bears find freedom again after rescue. In July of 2022, these 3 orphaned bear cubs were rescued by the Ramona Wildlife Center in San Diego. For 9 months, staff gave the bears a free roam at the center. But now that they're healthy again, these health workers return them to their natural habitat so they can help their species survive in the wild. Orphaned coyotes return to the wild. These 9 orphaned coyotes were raised at the Raymond Wildlife Center, but after they become mature enough to take care of themselves, they're immediately released into the wild, although still monitored. Look how happy they are. Bobcats finally free. These 2 Florida bobcats were originally raised by humans at the rescue center. Now they have over 5,000 acres of natural habitat to play in. No time to say bye. These 2 bobcats were a little handsy as they got ready to be released into the wild. Watch as they sprint away like a flash when the cage finally opens. Condor released into the wild. It took 4 men to bring this condor up the hills to be released. You can see how happy she looks now that she's free. Vultures reunited with nature. Look at the wingspan of this vulture as it finally gets out of the cage and prepares to launch into the wild. You can tell she feels absolutely at home right here in the middle of nowhere than when she was locked behind bars. Rare giant pangolin tastes freedom. This rare giant pangolin has lived in captivity for the longest part of its life, but now it's time to roam free in the wilderness. Captive lions return to the jungle. Everyone knows a lion belongs in the wild, which was why these animal rescuers brought these beasts back to their natural habitat. Look at them strolling through the landscape like they really own the place. Rare Siberian tiger release. Look at this huge Siberian tiger finding his way to his natural habitat again. Imagine the joy in his heart as he runs free into the wild. Amur tiger released in Russia. This Amur tiger was rehabilitated by the humans until it properly matured enough to be released. Watch as it finally leaps out of the cage and disappears into the thick wilderness. Crocodile returned to the wild. These Pakistani wildlife caretakers have taken care of these crocodiles for a long time, but now they must learn to survive on their own. Lynx released to the wild in Spain. Wildlife enthusiasts and experts gather to watch these lynx finally race into the woods where they'll live for the rest of their lives. A new dawn. These scientists have traveled across the range to bring these spider monkeys home. After spending a long time under human care, it was time to say goodbye and build a new home in the jungle. Monkey King returns to the throne. These local officials in China just freed a pig-tailed macaque, also known as China's first-class national protected animal. Although it's one of the few left, these experts believe the animal will thrive better in the wild. Chinese monkeys freed. This family of 5 Francois langur monkeys were bred in captivity. Now they get to find out what it feels like to be wild and free, as they're set free in Guangxi, South China. Australian koalas return to the wild. As a raging wildfire blazed through Australia, this mama koala and her baby got stuck on the wrong side of the forest. Luckily, they were rescued by firefighters and reserve rangers. Now that they've been nursed back to health, Tippy and Jellybean can return to their usual everyday life. Leopard, nursed back to health. This leopard was rescued from a well and nursed back to health by humans. Watch as it takes its first step back to the jungle after healing from its injuries. Endangered animals released in Russia. 3 Persian leopards have been released into the wild in Russia as part of the first efforts to reintroduce the species into the region. Leopard nursed back to health. This 30-day-old leopard cub was found in a sugarcane field in Bori Salwadi village, located in the Otur forest range of Junnar division. Following a rescue effort, the cub was brought to the center. However, the mother was soon identified, and so the officers decided to drop the cub off so the mom could take over from there. Tigress released into African wilderness. Watch these tigress roam free as they finally get to live in the wide-open forest. Their job is simple: hunt the wildlife and keep the circle of life moving. Shark returns home. This is Kay, a female ragged-toothed shark, and this is her friend, who's a juvenile male shark of the same species. The two had spent 4 years at the Two Oceans Aquarium, and now they were finally returning to the wide ocean. Baby shark takes a trip back to the ocean. Back in 2017, this baby, great white shark, washed up on a popular beach in Sydney. Now it's on its way back home after spending the night in the aquarium. Unruly bear released into the wild. After catching and tagging this black bear that has been harassing the locals, the caregivers released him right back into his natural habitat. Their technique is rather unique though. Bear released from small cage. This bear has spent years in this tiny cage. Now he gets to live the rest of his life, wild and free. Neighborhood bear returned home. This massive bear sat in the trees for days, watching the neighbors. But finally, the rescue officers are bringing him right back home, where it's safer for both him and the humans. Lion rescued from war zone. This lion has traveled a long distance to get her. After the war broke out in Ukraine, it got stuck behind the front lines. But thanks to the efforts of the preservation experts, it now has a new life in a conservation center in the UK. Coyote sprints to freedom. Watch this juvenile coyote sprint away as soon as the cage opens. You can tell he loves it here in the open rather than in a restricted environment. Wild horses get a second chance. The Przewalski horse species went extinct in the wild 60 years ago. Today they get a chance to try again, as the last 2 horses alive are released in their natural habitat in Central Asia. Orphaned rhinos return home. These 5 rhino calves became orphaned after their parents were murdered by poachers. All they wanted was the horns, but the lives of the majestic animals had to go for it. Now, the matured calves return to the wild, dehorned, and ready to give life another chance. Bear moved to a new location. Check out how these wildlife experts relocate this bear to a new location, where it's safer for him. New home for Zoo Bear. This massive bear was born in captivity and has spent 12 years providing entertainment for humans. Now he's finally out of the cage, free to explore the jungles. Penguins rush to the water. At the African Penguin Festival, these rehabilitated penguins are released into the wild by the Southern African Foundation. Watch as they run straight for the waters. Truck full of pigeons. Watch how experts released these droves of pigeons into the wild using advanced techniques. Now these birds can fly free for the rest of their lives. Hyena nursed back to health. After health workers found this injured hyena, they took it in and nursed it back to health. Now it's time to say goodbye as he runs back into his own world. Local village rescues striped hyena. This unlucky hyena got its leg stuck in a foot trap and was running around in so much pain. But thanks to the locals, the trap was removed and now the hyena can return to its usual day-to-day life. Giraffes get a new home. These 6 giraffes just got a new chance at life as wildlife workers move them back to the wild where they truly belong. Littlefoot goes back to the jungle. They call him Littlefoot, but nothing is really little about this massive bear. These scientists have nurtured him back to health after his parents were killed. Now it's time to say goodbye as the apex predator finds his way back home. Bella returns to the ocean. This is Bella, a little penguin who was brought to the Taronga Wildlife Hospital to receive treatment for wounds. Watch as she finally returns home to her family, who have missed her so much. Fawns find their way back home. This couple found these fawns on their property early one morning. After tracing where they came from, the husband and wife have brought them back home to continue their regular life. Celebrity turtle returns to the ocean. This giant turtle had become a sort of local celebrity. Check out how many people came to watch it return home. Turtle returns from vacation. After spending some time at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium, this 225-pound sea turtle named Kirby is going back home. You can tell she really missed the ocean. Tangled baby seal goes back to the ocean. This baby seal got tangled in some trash in the ocean. Luckily for him, some rescuers came by and set him free before taking him back home. Pickle and Sugar explore the new world. This is Pickle, a harbor seal that was originally born at Natureland Seal Sanctuary. This is Sugar, Pickle's best friend. The plan was to release them both at the same time. Unfortunately, Sugar wasn't ready at the same time, so Pickle had to be paired with another seal named Cherry. Stubborn baby seal. Doesn't want to go home. This cute baby seal must have gotten really attached to these rescuers, because now it has refused to go back to the free ocean. Siberian tiger gets a new home. It's never a good idea to allow Siberian tigers to wander around the streets. When officers managed to capture this one, they had to find it a new home. Chained tiger tastes freedom. This massive tiger has been chained to a single spot all her life. Watch as she takes her first steps towards freedom. Look at that joy on her face. Epic Siberian tiger release footage. Look at the epic reaction of these Siberian tigers as they realize they're now free. This is what freedom truly feels like. Charlie steps out of the cage. For the first time in 40 years, this elephant is able to roam free. No more cages for this majestic beast from now on. Boa constrictor returns to the wild. It takes a professional to return a snake as dangerous as a boa constrictor back to the wild. Just look at the way this man handles that snake. Orangutans find their way back home. After a helicopter ride to the middle of nowhere, these scientists are ready to release these healthy orangutans back into their habitat. Chimp sees the sky for the first time. This 28-year-old chimpanzee has spent its own life locked in a cage in a New York lab. Check out its emotional reaction as it sees the sky for the first time. The beasts head back home. It took a very long trip to get these 3 orangutans back home, but for these animal rescue workers, it was worth the stress. Unruly orangutan turns on his handler. Orangutans are rarely aggressive, but this one seems to be quite upset about something. As soon as it was released, this wild orangutan started attacking its handler. Guess you sometimes have to give animals their needed space. Lions rescued from circus. These 4 lions were bred in captivity. Now they can begin a normal life in the wild. The sanctuary welcomes a new king. These lions were also born and brought up in a circus, but now they are ready to go back to their natural habitat. Watch them leap out and disappear within seconds. Dancing monkeys find a new home. These 40 monkeys have entertained humans all their lives, but now they get to retire and live the rest in the wild. Watch how they react when they finally taste sweet freedom. Rescues giraffe released into the wild. This is Barbara the giraffe. Now that she's been nursed back to health by the wildlife workers, it's time to return to the forests where she truly belongs. 5 sea lions return to the wild. These adorable sea lion pups were rescued by wildlife workers months ago. Now that they've recovered well, there's no point keeping them any longer. Watch as they sprint to the water as soon as the cages are opened. Drowning deer returned to the wild. When these villagers found this deer almost drowning in a well, they knew they had to rescue it. Look at the excitement on his face as he finally sprints home to his family. Find a way home. This foundation understands the importance of allowing a wild animal to grow in its territory. So they've released porcupines, antelopes, and even vultures back into the forest after recuperation. Human-bred raccoons returned to the wild. These raccoons were just tiny babies when they first arrived at the center. Look at them now, all grown and strong enough to take care of themselves. Rescued pelican returned to the wild. Check out this pelican that got rescued by wildlife officers. You can tell she prefers these open skies to the confines of the cage. Crocodile finds a new home. This crocodile was rescued from a village to protect it from the people and the other way round. Now, they can finally introduce it to a new territory where it's on top of the food chain. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.